I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panelists, we live in a world where university and college education is absolutely essential today to survive in the near future. From jobs to basic life skills, its value increases day by day by day. But in a world where education is becoming increasingly important by the day, the fact that there are still barriers to this, to the future generation from achieving a higher education is absolutely baffling and devastating. What do these barriers look like? For example, time, rent, living costs, expenses, all of that. But imagine if those barriers were removed. If students could study from wherever they wanted with lower costs, accessible time, more open options, and more equality. This is the world the proposition side envisions for today's motion. As I start my speech today, I would like to first state my stance. So, as a proposition side, we push for moving tertiary education online. This is like Zoom calls, meetings, simulations, virtual study methods, video lectures, video essays, all of that. And we define tertiary education on tertiary education, we're focusing on tertiary education as education after high school, like for example, college, university, etc., vocational courses, etc. And we name the vulnerable actors in today's debate as high school graduates that are planning to go to college/uni, university students that are currently studying in university. Now, in this debate, I'll be bringing up 2 points to the table. Number one, the increased accessibility towards higher education and the affordability and why it's so important for these students. And number two, the flexibility of online tertiary education. Now, going on to my first point. Number one, the increased accessibility towards higher education and the affordability. Now, let's get this out of the way immediately, panels. Education is absolutely essential. You can get jobs with it, it can help you in your daily life, it prepares you for the future, so you're obviously better equipped with whatever life throws at you and you're not completely clueless, and obviously life skills for your daily life. But what about the importance of tertiary education? What happens after high school? So, obviously, number one, it can further improve your skills you have interest in. Let's say, for example, you want to become a doctor or a nurse. Now, with that, colleges and universities can give you a chance to study skills that are required to become a doctor and a nurse, therefore giving you a better chance to actually landing a job required in that kind of field. And number two, provides you with more insight on what you want to become in the future. For example, let's say a student doesn't really understand what she or he wants to be in the future. College and university can actually help with that a lot. Now, in the current status quo, education is locked behind paywalls and pay gates. Now, what do I mean by paywalls? Let's say, for example, expenses such as transportation costs, living costs, rent, necessities, all of that, they sometimes block students from actually gaining a higher tertiary education. How? Because of the sheer amount of cost. Now, before I explain, allow me to remind something. Panelists, please keep in mind that university students are still new adults. They're fresh out of high school. They're barely legal, and they may not necessarily have a lot of money. Sure, some of them have jobs, some of them already have businesses, but that's just a really rare part of them. Most of them are still fresh out of high school, and they're still unsure what to do in this new part of life, which goes to my problem. So these people, these students may not be able to fully afford all of these costs when they enter adulthood, and especially with the cost of university. But how does online tertiary education solve this? Number one, we're not saying their problems will absolutely vanish once we enter online tertiary education. No, not that. But we are saying that we will lessen the burden by a milestone if we enter online tertiary education. How? Okay, number one, expenses such as transportation. It becomes much more accessible from home. Like our education becomes much more accessible from home, which can help with transportation costs by a lot. For example, back in the day, or maybe like you used to have to pay for a taxi or maybe like public transportation every time you want to go to university, maybe going to your workplace and then back to your house, which can cost a lot, especially for people who don't really have a lot of money. With online tertiary education, this can help lessen the burden by a lot. And number two, living costs becomes much more lighter. Like I've said, so for some students may want to study internationally, or their university is far from home. They may have to rent a place somewhere nearby their study center, and obviously this can cost a lot, especially for people whose income isn't very high. Now, if we have online tertiary education where they actually can just study at home, this doesn't become a necessity. This doesn't become a necessity. This is just a further cost that's already removed now. And number three, this is already a huge support for them, as now costs are much more cheaper, allowing them to actually focus and pursue their education. Online education eases all of these costs by not requiring students to pay so much cost and remain affordable for the less privileged especially. If we truly care about giving the future students an equal shot, we have to take down the barriers first that stop them from actually getting this higher education. Now, going on to my second point, flexibility of online education and why it's important for these students. So obviously, panelists, let's get this out of the way really quickly. One of the biggest barriers to students, or university students specifically, is time, especially when they have a packed schedule. So students can have like a really packed schedule every day that leaves them tired, that leaves them tired and exhausted every day from day to night. Chores, part-time jobs, errands, and most obviously, classes and lectures that they have to attend in university. Now, in this status quo, it's not a stretch to say that most of these students may feel burnt out every single day from day to night from the amount of work they have to do every single day of the week. For example, morning they have to take out the laundry. For example, they have to cook their own food. They have to ride the bus or maybe drive back to the university. They have to study, which can go from afternoon to evening, and then they also have to go work in their workplace if they have a job, which can also be really tiring. And then when they get back home, they're going to be absolutely exhausted and burnt out. Panelists, this is also kind of a problem because, like I've said before, actually not I haven't said before, but a healthier life equals to a clearer mind, and a clear mind is essential when students want to actually study for what they're pursuing in the future. And if they're constantly bombarded with all of these tasks, all of these repetitive daily tasks they have to do, they can't really focus with this. Now, students can feel exhausted, like I've said. But how does online tertiary education actually solve this for these students? Number one, it allows them to have a much easier time, no pun intended. Number one, with video essays, video lectures, and online tech lectures available in the internet everywhere, in YouTube, in Twitter, and Reddit, etc., students can study whenever and wherever they want, which is absolutely important, specifically the whenever as well, because, like I said, time becomes more flexible and they can actually have a bit more leniency towards their schedule, so they don't have to necessarily be always panicking and always rushing to every single place they have to get to. And this solves the problem for students that have clashing work schedules as well, or events. It overall just becomes more flexible for these students, which can give them more leniency and more rest time, which is really important. And with a much more lenient schedule, students can actually absorb the knowledge and do better for tests, which can overall just improve their grade. For tests, essays, thesis statements, projects, etc., it can just overall improve everything if they have a better schedule in their work ethic. And like I said before, a healthier life equals to a clearer mind. With all of that, they can actually understand, or they can actually absorb the knowledge they've learned in university, in their colleges, through online, because now it's much more easier for them to actually study. They can pick whatever time they want. And for example, let's say for a student has like clashing work schedules or with a part-time job. Let's say they can actually also just listen to the lecture while they're working in that part-time job. Now, as I end my speech, allow me to ask you a question. Do we want the future generation to be successful? Do we want them to actually have a chance at life? If your answer is yes, then you support the push for a permanent move to online tertiary education. Thank you for your time.